Mr. Michael Nettleton, how are you, sir?
Yeah, good mate. How you doing? All right.
Yeah, very well, thank you. This is the first call of 2021.
Absolutely.
Which is to you. I hope you understand how important this is to.
Well, I was listening to the Kerfuffle podcast, and I was very heartened by your little speech about your falling back in love with the estate agency and how well the industry had coped in 2020. So I meant to give you a touch, so I was quite pleased you gave me a message yesterday to say hello.
No, I have fallen back in love with it, but I think the thing I'm most in love with is just the generosity of spirit that this industry tends to have. Tell me, 2020, not the best of years for you, or is it a mixed bag?
It depends on what level you want to have the conversation, I suppose, isn't it? From the business's point of view, a really important year and actually a really good year. So we put a lot of infrastructure in place. How long have I known you now? 3-4 years? Since we've met, we've implemented so much at quite a pace. And then all of a sudden, on the day lockdown happened, all of enough people in the company were like, yeah, okay, well, we'll believe you, we'll come quietly, kind of thing. But as soon as lockdown, everyone's like, oh, it makes sense now, doesn't it? So it put us forward as a business, quite a few years, because all this, the stuff like we're trying to do now, 12 months ago, this would have been a bit weird.
Yeah.
And it just kind of shifted everyone's kind of mindset to go, actually, Zoom is a thing, video calls and all this kind of good stuff. So it's really kind of helped our business from that point of view. And we have a board meeting every morning at 9 o'clock on Zoom, all hands meeting every night at 5:15 on Zoom. So we have like 2 quick meetings a day where everybody sees everybody really, and because one of our challenges, our geography is quite spread. So
right, okay.
So we cover a large geographical area. So
just give me an idea of how that's put together.
So 6 offices, north of Shropshire. Down into kind of the tips of Herefordshire and Worcestershire, basically, with our Kidderminster office. So it would take you a good hour and a bit to get from one extreme office to the other. So, and it's best. And if you say, let's drive around the offices today, Dave. That is a day. Just by the time you stop and had like 20-minute chat with everybody, plus you're driving, it's a huge. And to have like a training session, it's just a massive investment. Let alone the cost of the person coming to do the training. It's the actual, the mileage, the business, and just getting people there.
So I suppose Zoom then gives you some efficiencies that you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, it's been brilliant actually. So we've actually had a really good year. I anticipated we'd come out of lockdown quite well because I saw it as a bit of an opportunity, and I thought a lot of people would kind of just go to sleep. To be fair, the market, and I thought the market would be tough. And I thought we'd be ready for it and other people wouldn't. But, for better or worse, the market's just been absolutely ridiculously good and all the ships in the harbour have risen, perhaps. But then again, we were in a good position to do something about it, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, so, I think at the end of the first lockdown, I felt like all the work had done during lockdown, and at the time it didn't feel like work because it wasn't the regular sort of stuff that you do, but it's stuff like planning or learning or whatever it may be. And I felt really sort of match ready when we came back in May. And I expected, and there was a couple of weeks actually, yes, where the competition seemed to be asleep. Yeah. But as you say, all the ships rise at the same time, don't they, really? And that, I suppose, isn't a bad thing. It just keeps us on top of our game.
Yeah. The biggest challenge for me last year was the last quarter, in as much as all the work was basically done. As far as what you're going to get exchanged in the calendar year, with the exception of the sales progression team, obviously. But so the die of the year was cast. Everyone had worked like extraordinarily hard, and it was just a question of can we get enough exchanges across the line before Christmas to get people the rewards that they deserve for the year that they've had. Plus the fact it's been very difficult to give people intangible rewards, like when you take the afternoon off and go somewhere nice. Well,
you can't.
Like where? the lounge. So
this is your time to start buying everybody vouchers for places that they can't possibly spend it. Very generous man is Michael.
Yeah, you got to use it in the next 3 months. That's it.
It is bizarre. On a personal front, obviously, last year was tough. Right?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And do you feel have without wanting to sound in any way, and tell me if I'm overstepping the mark, but have you had the space to deal with it?
Probably not.
Or lockdown?
Not really, no. And I honestly can't decide if that's a good thing or not.
So you just kind of thrown into the day to day and
yeah.
Away. And your dad was very hands on in the business as well, wasn't he?
Yes, he was actually. So yeah, he was very much the architect of the modern firm, shall we say? So because obviously the firm's kind of 200 years old there or thereabouts, but it was very much in the last 50 years that it became what you might recognise it now.
So I contacted you yesterday because I said that I was writing a book, and as I typed the words, I realised how that actually sounded terribly sort of middle class and poncy, which is great because that suits my persona down to the ground. But the truth is, obviously, this focuses on Proptech, and the reason I wanted to speak to you is that you became what I would call an unlikely Proptech magnate at the end of last year. And it's out of necessity more than anything else.
100%, yeah.
Because you saw not necessarily a gap in the market, because I don't think you had your commercial hat on when it came about.
I agree.
You saw a gap in your processes that you perhaps could fill in or automate that would take a lot of time out of it. And I classify Proptech in its widest possible terms as any kind of technology or even any kind of service that helps agents provide a better service to the end user, which ultimately, in your case, is both the vendor or the landlord and also the tenant and or the buyer.
Everybody wins. I'm really pleased with it.
So, when did you first realize that you had to do it? And
lockdown, basically. So where one of our offices had so basically we didn't furlough everybody. We furloughed most people, kept the property managers on, furloughed all the frontline sales staff, with the exception of the branch managers or branch principals, as we call them. So I've got my top paid members of staff. Kept back thinking, right, well, we'll do all those those proactive things. We've never had 6 weeks of peace and quiet before. Let's do this prospecting. Let's do a bit of vendor contact. Let's look after the pipeline. It'll be a lean 6 weeks, but we'll have a ruck of exchanges the day we get back and all this kind of good stuff.
Yeah.
So that was plan A. And then they came in on Monday morning all keen. So I was like, right, come on, let's go and do this, do that, do the other. And then on Monday night, I'm like, right, so what have we done today then? Nothing. They had one office, got 7 properties to let, had 200 email inquiries for it. Wow. It's in lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way in lettings, but it's never been so the absurdity of it has never been so acute.
as when people, it suddenly seemed to us that when we were in lockdown that not necessarily on sales inquiries, because I think that naturally kind of just went to sleep for a little bit, but lettings inquiries seemed to sort of just go through the roof in terms of the volume of inquiries, but also the variety of people applying. And obviously you have I would imagine any kind of agency that is trying to do the best for their client and the landlord at the end of the day has a set of criteria that I suppose is a roadmap to the ideal sort of tenant that you're looking for.
Yeah.
And during lockdown, I think one of the additional challenges was that really you couldn't just move anybody anyway. Logistical challenges, but also in terms of personnel who were considered frontline workers, etc. And there was a whole, it was a messy period of time, wasn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and all the dogma in the industry, as far as everything really is every lead's precious. or and you get the EA Masters, which is fantastic, and then right mover up on stage going, well, only 10% of phone calls only 10% of emails get responded to within an hour, and 25% of phone calls don't get answered. You're bad agents. You're not running a good ship there. You've got to raise your game because your fees are going up, so you're gonna have to. It's all this kind of stuff. And I was a bit like, it's a bit like the Emperor's New Clothes, really, where I just kind of put my little finger up and just said, well, look, not being funny, most of these leads are rubbish.
Yeah.
So it was a bit kind of strong what I did, I thought, and I was a bit nervous. I thought I'd get like pushback from the staff, but basically we just put the autoresponder up with the form on it. So all tenancy applications that come in, fill out this form, and the email doesn't go any further than that until you've completed the form. Then once you've completed the form, it goes through to the negs. And I thought the staff would hate me for it because I thought it was a bit customer prevention, and I thought they'd be like, oh, it's a bit strong, that is. And I was like, so how are you getting on with it? They're like, yeah, it's great, it works. Yeah,
it does, and it's funny because you contacted me to say, hey, look, I've got this bit of tech that we're trying out, and I said to you that we just finished designing something very similar using a variety of different products together at the same time, and because we'd reached the same conclusion as you, that I could either have my staff pouring through 200 applications for one property, or I could have them laser focusing perhaps on the 10 people that actually did need to move, had a reasonable prospect of actually getting the property.
With 200 leads coming in, how quickly are you going to get back to those 10 people? Because you don't know who those 10 people are yet.
Yeah.
You've got to wade through 200 to find out who those 10 are. And by the way, you've only got, well, in our case, you have 7 houses to let, so at least 3 of them are going to be disappointed.
So what you've designed, you've given it a name. What's the name?
So Agent Response.
Agent Response. And so you trialed it yourselves, you found out it was working.
100%. Yeah, and it went really well. And that was it, really. It's the end of the story there, to be fair. Then I was looking in the back end of Rightmove, and I was comparing email leads to telephone leads. And, the offices vary, but the numbers are they're not wildly dissimilar, actually. And I was thinking, right, well, with my hypothesis that, 80% of the emails are a waste of time, what about the phone calls? Because I don't know what it's like in your offices, but in ours, someone will ring up and have like 5 minutes on the phone with you and spend £500,000 and that's it.
Yeah.
But a rental, wow. We've got a total credit score. And you got 45 minutes of your life's gone.
It takes an entirely different skill set as well for those members of staff. So you're quite right. When somebody's sort of spending £500,000, and this is always something that has struck me as being very odd, that if you think about actual contact and even the amount of time spent in a property before you commit to buying it, for the spend, it's a relatively short amount of time that anybody's spending interacting with anyone, and it always shocked me at how quickly we would give up £500,000 for a property we've spent all of 5 minutes in. But I'm not complaining. Long may that continue. But in terms of dealing with tenants, you would assume it's a much more straightforward process because these people aren't fantastically invested in these properties. They're not buying a chunk of it. The rental figures are, yes, a good portion of their monthly wage, but it's not the end of the world. But in some cases, those conversations are far more involved than your average sales call. And so to have that ability to link everybody back to that same source of truth, if you like, which is that form that you need people to fill in, is superb. So Agent Response then became something that you made available to other agents as well, right? Not just...
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as I hooked it into the phones, so on Rightmove, as I'm sure you know, and indeed the other portals, you can have more than one telephone number. So you can have your sales number and your lettings number. So our lettings number points you at our form. So when you ring, you get a very polite voicemail saying we've just sent you a text message. In that text message is the form. The people that fill the form out, fantastic. We'll rent the house to you because you're halfway there really to being a decent tenant. And if you can't be bothered to fill the form out, well, look, that's fine. The ball's still in your court. When you get around to it, we'll deal with you. That's okay.
I actually thought that was the cleverest bit of the tech, and it's the most simple bit. Is that if these people cannot, they don't have the patience or the time to fill in the form, or they don't. A lot of people say, oh, "I'm not filling that in. I'm not giving you that detail." If they don't understand that that is very important to the decision-making process, they're not the kind of tenant you're going to want in the long term anyway.
Stupid question. I'm sure you have, but have you actually ever sent a lead through on Rightmove?
Wow. Yeah, it's going back a while now when we were looking for our own home.
It is so easy to do. So easy.
Once you registered, it's just a click of a button, isn't it? Really.
On one click.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. So we've been shut since the 23rd of December officially, and we don't open till 10 o'clock this morning. But in between, I've been in the office because I'm an addict and I can't help it. But I've been going through those inquiries that came through for some of the properties that I launched either just before Christmas or on Boxing Day, which is a discussion in its own right. But when I got those inquiries, I thought, fantastic, I've got a vendor, particularly I had a vendor that had been on the market with another agent. And when they come to you as the second agent, you think, well, I'm taking it on at pretty much the same price. I'm promising them I'm going to double their exposure, whatever it may be, because I'm able to get the property out there. And you think, I just need these viewings. So I thought, right, well, I'm going to call back these inquiries. And I sat with a stack of inquiries like that and picked up just good old-fashioned picking up the phone. Hello, this is me. You've inquired. I can't even tell you the percentage of people that didn't bother picking up. The people that never responded to a message since then, the people I've discovered have since gone to go and view it with another agent because for whatever reason, when they sent out their inquiry, they sent it to all three of us or however many agents were on it. And I actually managed out of 8 inquiries on one property to get down to one credible set of people who I'm quite happy to tell you I showed around the house yesterday morning. But it's crazy, isn't it, really, when you think about the ratio of inquiry to, and I suppose that's because the portals have made it so easy for people.
I had a meeting with the Rightmove rep like 2 years ago now, and they showed me all the leads that we had of people who Rightmove identified had houses to sell in where they would recognise was our patch. And we had, it was something like, I don't know how many thousands of leads we had came through. And then it was like, yeah, and 350 of them have come on the market. And I've gone, oh, well, with us? No, the market. And it's like, so that we as agents have absolutely, Herculean task of wading through absolute rubbish. It's just solved, one half of the equation of that problem as far as the lettings is concerned. But like I say, all the dogma in the industry is every lead's precious, and you've got to get back to them. And there's things that's like, well, service level agreement, you've got to get back to them within 20 minutes.
I agree with you about that dogma, because that word is used. Well, it can only really be used in a slightly negative context, but it is because we've been spoon-fed by really well-meaning people. And if Peter Knight's out there, hello, good morning. But Peter, I spoke to him a few years ago about EA Masters because I couldn't work out why somebody that is as beautiful as me, as intelligent as me, and as great an agent as me couldn't get onto that list. And he said, okay, well, look, it may be down to the fact that you guys are not responding to your inquiries quick enough. And we beefed up everything around how we respond to inquiries. So we've got a service that a lot of us use, Moneypenny. In fact, I'm wearing their socks today. That's how you can tell it's a work day. We use that for overflow inquiries if we couldn't get to the phone on time or we were tied up on other calls. We made sure that we started dealing with email inquiries. But the truth is, at some point, I sat back and thought, how crap an agent must you be to A, still be in business, right? and not respond to leads. So if you need money and you need to feed your family, you're going to have to answer that phone. You're going to have to follow up on leads.
It's responding to the right lead, so isn't it? The problem is you're drowning in the industry is drowning in leads. We've got more leads than we even know what to do with. We are polluted with leads. The problem is it's getting to that. It's about 5% actually of the leads that are actually you've got a chance with. So that's the golden ticket.
So you've created a product, and it's really simple. Pretty much anybody could cook it together at home if they had the time. But you've streamlined it and you've made that available to other agents. What's the take-up been like?
Whenever I speak to someone, they're like, "Yeah, I want it." The only negative feedback I've had is they can't have it now.
Okay. Well, right. So this is very much why I actually contacted you.
Yeah.
So you can see my really neat notes that I've scribbled down here. But basically, the way that this idea of my little book of Proptech came about was I'm actually going to just do it on a very simple A to Z basis. So A is for API, for instance, and I couldn't work out what B was for, and then I decided that B was for beta.
Okay. Like that.
Because my experience in terms of the olden days, and this is going back maybe, if you want to go back 10 years, when a Proptech rep walked into your office with a bit of kit to show you, very often it would be pictures of our product is going to do this in probably 3 years' time. It's in development, I promise. And it never actually sort of delivered what those visuals represented. And at very best, those visuals were just a developer's dream of what might be. And it felt like there was a real disparity between what you were being sold and what you were able to actually use. And in some cases, even with big established companies, that is the case. But I've actually found that within the industry, we've got a much better idea now of what represents a minimum viable product. And I was talking to Kristjan Byfield, who you probably know.
Yeah.
And Kristjan's comment was that the MVPs, if you like, are a thing of the past, and that developers or suppliers are concentrating on what he calls FOP, so fully operational product.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, when you're setting up a Proptech venture, even by accident, like you have, how important is it to get it customer ready, and will you release it until it's ready? So what?
From our point of view, it's 100% ready. It's been ready for 6 months, to be fair. What we had to build is the infrastructure to scale it. So the price point that we're doing it at, it's starting from about £20 a month, basically. So it needs to be kind of self-service. A bit like, I've never met anyone from Netflix, never met anyone from Calendly, never met anyone from Zoom. It works. You plug it together, we're off to go. So we could build it for you, kind of, custom for not a fat lot of money, but it'd take a little while. But what we're trying to do is build like the commercial platform where you literally just upload your logo and put in your telephone numbers and your email addresses, and you're off. So the email's live now, so you can start with that. But the telephone we're hoping to bring in this month. So the product 100% works. It's just the scaling of the product is the challenge. For us.
So the tech itself is sort of, in terms of being an MVP, is well and truly.
Oh yeah, because it's built on legit tech. Really, we haven't cobbled anything together. It's just our recipe using $1 billion products really. And we've just put the estate agency twist on it. So there's nothing in there too groundbreaking, apart from the fact that I've turned, the dogma on its head, going, sorry, mate, I don't want 100% of leads. 20% is fine.
I'm conscious of your time, so I'm not going to take too much of it. But when it comes to Proptech, there used to be a sense that we were being sold stuff by people that didn't understand our industry.
Yeah.
And that we were being sold products that kept us on the hook, if you like. If they could work it into a subscription model, all the better. And we were being sold mostly products that would boost our incoming leads in terms of instructions. So agents are always hungry for instructions, and therefore we would invest.
David, that's all you need.
Just one more. And I think that's why that whole rhetoric comes about. That whole, you just need to sell one more property, because we were always being sold stuff that would boost incoming business from the sort of vendor or landlord side of things. Your product deals with the actual nitty-gritty of doing our job.
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that, or two questions here. Would it be fair to say that the Proptech scene's changing, that we've now got as many products to help us do our job as we have to get vendor leads in? And the other side of it as well was, we've now got a profusion of new startup ideas. So Kristjan, we've mentioned, he was an agent first. He then decided he was building a product to tackle a problem that he had. You're exactly the same. The best bits of Proptech sometimes come from the people that know it best.
You couldn't work at a suppliers and come up with what we've come up with, because you couldn't go to your line manager, hi, we're going to charge people to get them less leads.
Yeah,
you're fired. Go away. You'll never get it through. But it's only once, like you see the ashen faces of people just getting mown over with rubbish leads day in, day out, that you're like, oh, we've got to do something about this. It's just pure empathy, because it's just an undoable job otherwise.
So you do feel that obviously sort of agent-led tech is probably one of the ways forward.
And I think the building blocks are there to do it now. So I think there's going to be a ruck of people in the space who are going to be creating their own apps that solves their particular kind of niche or problem, and I think they'll be really well received personally.
I quite like it as well, because dealing with you, for instance, I would be confident knowing that Michael's not just trying to squeeze every penny he can get out of me. Until that whole supplier thing takes over you.
I've got better things to do than try and hustle 20 quid a month out of David Mintz, Yeah, I really have. But
you can try, my friend. Other people have failed doing it.
But yeah, it's only because it's like, good God, this thing, this is a real thing, and I've got to chuck some time at this, because this is it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Okay, so on my other list, so we've kind of tackled what I wanted to with beta, and the idea as well is that sometimes when you're testing a product, so for instance, you turn around to your mastermind group. That's where we first met. One of Stephen Brown's mastermind group. What you may do is you may say, "Oh, look, could you have a look at this? Could you use it? Would you test it?" So in actual fact, sometimes beta testing, being allowed to look at it and test it and play with it, is not such a bad thing after all, and it helps you get that fully operational product out there. I had some other blanks on my list of A to Z. It's very hard to shoehorn everybody.
I've got you for you if you want.
Oh, go on.
Udemy.
I'm going to have to Google that.
Yeah, so it's online. It's a little like £10 or £12. So it's a free app. So it's like online learning basically. So We've got loads of training courses on there. So if you're about to instruct someone to do the SEO for you or something like that, spend 12 quid, spend 2 or 3 hours on an online training course about SEO. You'll basically know enough out of 10 of what you need to know about SEO. And then when you're giving the brief to whoever you're going to be giving, you actually basically know what you're talking about, because the biggest challenge we've got in our industry is, the sales rep, in terms of what we're talking about, the sales rep comes in, they promise you a unicorn. You're like, well, I'd love a unicorn, so thank you. So you buy it, don't you? But unless you really kind of understand the conversation that you're really having, it's difficult for you to kind of instruct them and really know what it is that you're actually buying and what you can hold them to account to in terms of what they could, would, and should be delivering. So So I found that really useful. Funny enough, we've got Sam, who's our digital marketing manager. She's got a first-class degree from Birmingham University in social media. She's brilliant. And I sent her a Udemy course on blogging the other day, and she's just like, and it was free because it was one of the free ones. And she was like, that was a term's worth of a course at her university, like because
I will check that out. Congratulations, you've actually made it to the list. That's worthy. I had Under Offer before that.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah, Udemy. Yeah,
I'm quite happy with Udemy. I decided I was agonizing over H because it was, homes, houses. Am I going to use what am I going to talk about? And then I decided that in our industry, and this is how we first met. And this is the spirit right at the beginning of the call that we talked about. I've decided that H is for heroes because we all have mentors and we all have heroes that really champion our industry and always shouting from the sidelines. And I remember when we first met, without going into any detail whatsoever, we were all of us, a bunch of business owners who we had a bag full of problems that we just sort of tipped out on the table upside down.
Well-intended misfits.
Had to work through. And at the time, I don't know, it didn't seem that instrumental because you're in the room with everybody else and you're sharing your problems. But I think people like Stephen Brown have helped me, for instance, take a step back and look at things in a practical way. So how important were those mastermind groups to you, and training and trainers and heroes, I suppose? Yeah,
phenomenal, really, because if you roll the clock back 10 years, you heard rumours of people, they went to America and they went on a course. You know what I mean? And trying to get access to information was nigh on impossible. Whereas now, I suppose ignorance is a choice up to a point, isn't it? But the mastermind thing's brilliant because, in our particular group, there's 20, 25 of us. And most of, I think all of us are a bit of a Jedi master in, they've got one thing that, I'll go to them and I'll ask them about that because they are the real deal at that thing. They might be hopeless at half a dozen other things. And as you get to know them, you really do realise that don't go and ask them about that because they won't have a clue. But amongst the 24 of us, the value, the collective value in that room is just
immense, isn't it?
You can't put a price on it. It'd be a ridiculous exercise. It's so valuable though, and it's fun as well. So because we all get on, and it's a good laugh really. And then you leave, and we don't get. I don't feel I get overwhelmed with too many ideas. I don't come away kind of paralyzed, going, "Good God, how am I ever going to do those 25 different things?" It's like, do you know what? Actually, if I can do that one thing, that'll move us forward. And I'll come and worry about something else next time I come back.
There was a slight pressure at one point to sort of crazy implement there was this race, like it was the space race. The minute somebody had an idea, it was like, who is going to be able to implement this idea by the time they reach where they're home?
We left the station, so it was just a race for second place, really, wasn't it?
Sean Adams famously talking through ideas and just at the same time implementing them in real time. But to me, I've said this to Sean openly, and I would do. I always caution sometimes you need to sort of. It's not one size fits all, and to get something to fit your particular organisation or your team, you've got to bed it in the right way and introduce it in the right way, and drip feed it sometimes. So that's been really useful. So I suppose have you taken people like Stephen Brown? Have you used them for actual training with your staff as well?
Yeah. So we've got If you've got a CPD, there you go.
So I'm afraid that C was CRM.
There you go. That's for Proptech. You got to go with
that. I'm gonna ask you about CRM. We feel that very very quickly, and I'm going to let you go. we feel that CRM is immensely important because, to a certain extent, as agents, we build our lives around it. It is Simon Weil says it's the source of truth, and it is. If you want to know where one of your negs is, you go to that CRM. You look in the diary. It will be linked to clients. It will be linked to properties, and you'll be able to sort of gauge both activity levels and manage your customer data in one place.
Yeah.
But CRMs they're available everywhere. They're ubiquitous, really, aren't they? They're absolute, in every industry. It's not just personal to us. But the nightmare is changing a CRM in our industry. How often have you guys had to do that?
We moved across to Reapit about 3 years ago. So that's where we are now. So yeah, single platform, cloud-based solution, et cetera, et cetera. It's basically, to be fair, as a system, it's very good and staff really like it. I feel sorry for the CRM providers because I think there's a huge amount of kind of legacy issues that all the CRM providers have got. In as much as, you or I ring up and go, oh, can you do this for us? And they're going, that's $1 million worth of dev, that is. we can't just flick a button. It doesn't work like that. But again, we as agents are perhaps a bit ignorant, shall we say, and we're brought up on, well, I downloaded Netflix last night and it worked. So, and I've been on Amazon Prime and it's coming tomorrow. Yeah. So what's the problem? You see what I mean? So I think I think the next 5 years are going to be absolutely fascinating in the CRM space.
I think you're right.
And I think there's a handful, and I've had this conversation kind of with one or two people actually. I think there's a few people out there in the space who the recipe of their CRM, I'm not talking the actual CRM itself, in terms of how they've plugged it together, and then you plug this into that, and then that, and this is the journey that we do. I think that's worth, multiples of their business. And I think there's a few people out there who could sell their recipes for a fortune.
Are we saying that we're going to be seeing a bestseller hitting the shelves? It'll be Luke St. Clair's recipe book. But Luke is a great example of somebody that tinkers, yeah.
Well, Kristjan, we just talked about just now, he reckons in the next 18 months he'll have 80% of his his workflows completely automated. I'll tell you what, Kristjan, I'll pay you £20 a month as a subscription for that. You know what I mean? And there's 15,000 agents in the UK who'd all quite like a look at that as well.
Yeah. No, it is superb, and it feels like it's like I said to you, it feels like one of the first times that I've known that Proptech is suddenly actually giving us products that we can use, but not only use, benefit the end user as much as they benefit the agent. Because previously it was just marketing, it was just about funneling. And now the process and the user experience with an average agent is getting so much better. And we're upping that industry standard. So I wanted to say thank you for being a legend all round.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
And thanks for putting this together. And thanks for taking the time to talk to me about this.
Great to see you. Thank you for the invite.
What I might do is listen to this back later. If it does sound like the best podcast I've ever done without Simon Weil, I may ask your permission to run it, but certainly it's gonna go into the book. So thank you very much.
Pleasure. Yeah, thank you, mate. Yeah, I'll think of some more letters between now and then.
Yeah, you can do. I'll tell you, I've got. If you can come up with a Z or an X,
or Z or an X.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Well, X is easy. It's the multiple, isn't it? 10X.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the old Peter Knight recipe.
So, yeah, no. One sale. No. You got to get me 10 sales. I've got to get a return on it. So there you go.
I'm going to pop that in. Michael, thank you. Have a wonderful 2021 and a wonderful week.
My first board meeting of the year, but it was good to talk to you anyway. I'll see you soon, mate. All right.
Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.